Welcome. Thank you for joining. Today, we will be looking at how to create delightful shopping experiences with APIs. My name is Chris Hood. I am a digital strategist and value advisor for Google Cloud. And joining me today is another Chris, Christopher Rowe, our retail industry lead for Google Cloud's business application platform team. Hi, Chris. How are you doing?
Great. Thanks, Chris. Glad to be here. Thanks, everyone, for joining. Looking forward to the conversation.
So before we get started, I did want to just point out to everyone our email addresses. We have a little time at the end of the presentation for some questions, but in case we don't get to your question or maybe you have something else that you would like to discuss with us, feel free, write down our email addresses, and then afterwards you can reach out to each one of us with your questions. Let's get into it. So, Chris, one of my first jobs was actually in retail. And I've been in and out of the industry several times during my career. But you have been much closer to the changes we've seen in retail over the last few years. And I believe you would agree, we've seen substantial transformation. In retail, transformation is more than a requirement. It is a race. This statement is probably more true based on the current state of affairs we're all going through in the world today. But the pace of change and the pace of transformation is set by disruptors, and that's all types of disruptors, along with the shifting customer expectations. So consider brick and mortar stores. Innovation in frictionless retail has begun to scale, and the rise of things like click and collect or easy returns, mobile order ahead, and cashierless checkouts will help streamline those transactions. Meanwhile, we see in physical retail as a service platforms, they're bringing more digital natives and brands to the masses through those brick and mortar storefronts and experiences. The impact of this is felt across the entire retail value chain. Retailers that transform the fastest are the most successful. We see this with leading retailers like Kohl's or Staples, who continue to innovate with new store and digital experiences. And we've seen this also with digital natives like Zulily, who has reinvented their entire customer shopping experiences. These types of transformations become even more heightened when we look at the demands customers have today. Customers have become increasingly more curious. Customers visit new brands, research products, read reviews, and price match multiple times before making a purchase. I'm sure all of us who are listening today can relate to that. 49% of digital consumers research a brand or product 2 to 4 times before converting or making a purchase. Customers are also more impatient than ever before. At Google, we found that roughly 53% of visits to a website are abandoned if the mobile experience takes longer than 3 seconds to load. But the real eye-opener is what consumers will do after a poor experience. 92% of digital consumers say they would stop purchasing from a company after 3 or fewer poor experiences. And customers are also more demanding today. And here's the important stat to pay attention to. Today, 66% of digital consumers say it takes more to impress them than ever before. And 65% expect personalized experiences. Digital consumers are looking for companies that are innovative. In fact, 56% of digital consumers actively seek to buy from the most innovative companies. The companies that align with their customers' technical profile and impress them with personalized experiences are the ones that are more successful. Now, these stats are impacting all industries, but the retail industry is going through a transformation driven by customers who expect their experiences to be seamless between online and in-store shopping. Customers are increasingly turning to digital channels to make purchases, and these consumers are looking for innovative tools that can make recommendations or better help them find what they need. And as we mentioned, 56% of digital consumers actively seek to buy from the most innovative companies. So how will you be innovative to build these seamless, connected, personalized experiences for your customers? Well, in 2020, APIs are everywhere. API-first architectures will help retailers deliver delightful shopping experiences and drive business growth. Most importantly, APIs are powering innovation. Successful companies use APIs as differentiators and competitive advantages in their markets. APIs are essential for creating innovative business models and innovative forms of engagement with customers. APIs have helped many businesses meet customers' increasing expectations for connected experiences, but they've also helped some enterprises pursue even bigger or more profound business evolutions, things such as unlocking new revenue streams or product categories, creating online marketplaces, executing platform business models, and many other things that you'll probably consider as loftier definitions of the good word digital transformation. Over the years, we've seen evolutions happen sort of like this. API started off as a way to improve access. We had RESTful APIs, and REST became an alternative to SOAP. We introduced things like HTTP verbs with simpler architectures. We then moved to integration. System or software A connecting to system or software B, sending and receiving data back and forth between those systems. Unfortunately, today, many businesses are still stuck in this mindset. As enterprises have become more mature, they reach this experience-based perspective for APIs. Mobile apps powered by APIs that deliver experiences to their customers, like mobile checkouts or loyalty rewards and payments for your coffee orders. But the enterprises that truly unlock the power of APIs reach this transformational level. Digital transformation of the enterprise itself, unlocking new revenue models, improved partnerships, innovative modes of engagement, and increased fluidity to meet the ever-changing market landscape. From a long-standing integration technology to being a powerful agent of transformation, the evolution of APIs has been impressive. Today, APIs are the fundamental building block to successful businesses. A research paper was published in May 2017 by a couple of professors from MIT and Boston University to demonstrate this. They studied data over the course of about 3 years from 120 different enterprises that invested in APIs. They compared the firm's financial data with API logs that showed total volume of API traffic, developer portal usage, app keys, total number of APIs created over time. And the report found that there was a substantial relationship between companies who invested in API programs and an increase in sales, decrease in cost, and overall a higher net income, translating to an overall increase in the business value by 12.7%. Now, I know what most of you are probably thinking. While that research is rather incredible, taking a research paper alone to your executive committee and using it as a business case is probably not enough. Transformation, though, can be easier with APIs. So, Chris, our retail expert here, what examples can you share with everyone to demonstrate the opportunities in front of them?
Absolutely. Thanks, Chris. I appreciate it. I'd love to talk to you guys in terms of 4 major use cases that we've seen as the Apogee team inside Google in terms of where our retail customers are using APIs to transform themselves digitally and remain relevant and grow and reach that level of market capitalization increase that Chris was talking about. So there's 4 key areas, and number 1 is omnichannel experience. Customers' expectations are high, and at this point, they're disrupting the entire retail value chain. Retailers have to reimagine, they have to adapt and transform all parts of their business in order to stay competitive. We're now seeing retailers using Apigee to achieve results in these areas, and omnichannel, again, is the first. You also have store operations, data and insights, and finally, innovation via ecosystems. And we're going to expand on each of these in the coming slides. So starting with omnichannel experience, there's at least 3 major components to this. Number 1 is ensuring a consistent experience by making data, the data that you have, and the digital capabilities for your consumers, making those available as APIs that can be leveraged consistently across all channels. So that means having consistent assortment, having consistent inventory and availability, consistent pricing, and having the same set of capabilities at each digital touchpoint. This extends to things like personalization, ensuring consistency across interactions for things like product recommendations, which are, of course, based on centralized data about the customer, their shopping behaviors and preferences. And a critical component of this is facilitating cross-channel sales and fulfillment. So, for example, buy online, pick up in store. Let's take a look at a traditional retailer attempting an omnichannel strategy without API management. So each channel has to be built with intricate knowledge of and coupling to your back-end systems. This drives up the cost and the timeline for expansion into new channels and makes back-end changes prohibitively complex. As you can see here, it's difficult or nearly impossible to guarantee consistency across all of these channel-to-service relationships as you're trying to ensure robust security policies, consistent standards, and the enforcement or use of operational best practices across the board for monitoring, alerting, reporting, and more. So Apigee solves these problems by handling mediation for API traffic across all channels, offering a standardized API interface to the consuming applications and partners while decoupling those digital touchpoints from the retailer's back-end systems. This drives speed to market by allowing rapid changes to both the front-end and the back-end systems. The right policies can be applied to all API traffic. So, for example, rate limiting, quotas, authentication, authorization, of course, of both the client systems and the end users. And rich visibility is established for monitoring and reporting on how APIs are being consumed. So Apigee serves as an abstraction layer, and you can see that depicted here in this diagram. This is typical of several retailers. I actually started as a customer, a user of Apigee at one of the U.S.'s top retailers back several years ago before Google acquired Apigee. And we see the same pattern with several of our retail customers. The way this works here is Apigee acts as an abstraction layer, and it allows for the seamless migration and modernization of legacy applications. So Apigee's capabilities, for example, for intelligent routing, failover, and service interoperability and orchestration allow previously monolithic retail platforms to be gradually decomposed into microservices and shifted to the cloud without impacting customer experience or partners. Staples is one example of a very successful omnichannel implementation using Apigee. For those outside the U.S., Staples is a large retailer of office supplies and related products. APIs enabled Staples to accelerate its app development and also helped to get the omnichannel functionality up and running faster. They saw an increased ability to easily integrate content from partners to create cross-selling and upsell opportunities. So we talked about omnichannel. Let's go into store operations. And here we have the second key area where retailers are using APIs. And there's, again, 3 pieces to this. So empowering associates with digital capabilities, providing customers with a frictionless checkout, and accelerating the associate onboarding of new staff. We previously talked about how an API management platform provides an abstraction layer in the form of managed APIs that enable retailers to move faster in the delivery of new and differentiated front-end applications and partner channels as well. And that includes apps that are used as also in-store for clienteling and other purposes. With a history of 135 plus years, Marks & Spencer is a major British multinational retailer and an Apigee customer. They had an estate of old devices used by their staff in their 600-plus stores that were used to manage many of the day-to-day operations. This device was expensive, it was complicated to use, it was hard to maintain, and it required extensive staff training. With a small Android development team, Marks & Spencer was able to build a series of lightweight, intuitive apps for a new Android device to support mobile point of sale and clienteling on the shop floor. This enabled rich conversations between the staff and the customers. These apps were so easy to use that the staff no longer required training. They were completely intuitive. They were delighted with the device. The third key area where APIs are driving transformation in retail, and this one is critical, is innovation via ecosystems. So again, few components to this. Number one is unlocking new streams of revenue. So that's exposing products and services via APIs to both internal teams and to partner organizations. Number two, creating developer ecosystems. When we talk about developers, we're talking about the ones developing applications to consume your APIs and your data and your capabilities as a retailer. So this is quickly onboarding, managing, and selling through additional channels, through partner channels, and through experiences and platforms built by other teams, perhaps even within your own organization. And third, fast-tracking marketplace strategies, so quickly onboarding new sellers as suppliers while easily managing inventory and transactions. Magalu is a fantastic example of a retail marketplace built on Apigee. Magazine Luiza is one of Brazil's largest retailers with over 1,000 stores. Some people call them the Amazon of Brazil, which is kind of funny because the Amazon actually is in Brazil. But anyway, terrible joke aside, while Magalu offers about 10,000 unique items in store, their marketplace by the end of 2018 hosted more than 3,300 vendors offering a combined total of 4.3 million products. Ticketmaster is an example of an API-driven platform business using Apigee. So Ticketmaster uses APIs to sell tickets through not only their own channels like Ticketmaster.com and their mobile apps, but also a wide variety of partner channels, such as the websites for local entertainment venues and social channels like Facebook. In fact, 15% of all their ticket sales in 2018 came via partners. Ticketmaster also uses APIs to function as a marketplace, selling tickets to consumers from third-party suppliers. So between both of these API-based solutions, Ticketmaster has truly achieved the status of a modern platform business in that they're selling products they don't own to customers that aren't theirs, customers of other organizations. Thus, they're aggregating both supply and demand. One final area, we said there's 4 areas, and the fourth area where APIs are extremely relevant today in retail is harnessing the value of data. So examples of this are simplifying the management of robust loyalty programs across channels, securely sharing data, sharing it both across channels and with partners, and also democratizing access to a retailer's investments in AI and ML models. Here you can see an example of a customer who's using Apigee for an API-powered loyalty management platform. You can see services are provided for earning rewards, burning rewards, rewards account management, and personalized offers, which would be, AI ML driven. These capabilities are bundled as a product in Apigee and published on behalf of developers and partners who are building digital touchpoints that are consumer-facing, store employee-facing, and partner-facing. So how will you win this race for digital transformation and relevancy? There are at least 4 ways that APIs are digitally transforming businesses across the board right now, and I want to touch on those. So we talked about these a little bit with some of the examples like Ticketmaster. So aggregating demand, this is all about taking your capabilities, your data, your products, and making them available through additional channels, not just your own channels, right? Aggregating supply is extending your assortment, extending your ability to become a marketplace and sell products from additional suppliers, not just those products which you have on hand, perhaps in your own distribution centers. Third is API products. So this is taking all of the data and capabilities that you have as an organization and productizing those as a digital product the same way you would treat your iPhone app, your Android app, your online storefront, managing that with a team of product managers and developers on an ongoing basis, rather than looking at APIs as a project, looking at them as a product, both from a funding and an execution perspective. and having a place where those products can be merchandised and discovered. So that's having a developer.mycompany.com with an API development portal where consumers, whether internal or external, can come and find the capabilities that you want them to find from a security perspective, obviously. And then the ability to find all the documentation they need, to be able to register themselves as consumers, to get access, to get, to request certain capabilities or rate plans in the case of monetization or so forth, to get a hold of an API key that they can then use either in a sandbox or in a production environment to begin consuming these products. And so it's all about rapid onboarding of new consumers and new partnerships to drive new revenue and to build out those platforms and ecosystems that we talked about. And then the fourth piece here is APIs as a means of app modernization and migration. And this is very prevalent in retail, and we looked at an example of this earlier on a previous slide. And a lot of our retailers are using Apogee in this way, and that's to create that abstraction layer between your systems of record and your systems of engagement so that you're able to move quickly on either end to lift and shift, to lift and modernize without affecting your end consumer and vice versa on the front end. And so we'll talk a little bit more about that as we take a deeper look into what API management's all about here on this slide. So here over on the left, you've got all of your systems of engagement, we call them, your digital touch points, where your partners are coming in, mobile devices coming in, employee systems, point of sale, any digital customer touch point. And then over there on the right, you've got your valuable data and capabilities from a digital capability. So some of these things could be data that's still locked up in a mainframe, or you may still have some SOA stuff out there that you'd like to make consumable and begin bringing to market. You probably already have some REST services, maybe even some microservices out there. You may even have an ESB. So the question is, with all these valuable data and capabilities, how do you begin to bring those to market in a secure and scalable and controlled manner with visibility and so forth? And so there are three components to that when you're looking at API management solution. And the first part of that is the API gateway, and this is what probably most folks are familiar with and are thinking about when they think about a product like Apogee. And so the gateway is sitting between your digital touch points and your backend systems and mediating that traffic, providing throttling, rate limiting, caching, providing the necessary transformations that you may need to, for example, to convert from REST to SOAP, or, to enforce, obviously, security policies on open web standards, JWT, OAuth 2, and, CORS, and so on and so forth. And so there's several capabilities there. And that's one piece. And there's tons of policies that you would want to enforce here, especially, service interoperability. If we take the case of a lift and shift or a lift and modernize, the type of intelligent routing and failover and throttling and all of those things that you would need, and load balancing and so forth. The second major piece is what we call developer experience. So this is having that portal in place for discovery and documentation and onboarding and self-registration of consumers and so forth. The third piece is visibility. So this is having the analytics and reporting and monitoring and alerting all necessary to measure every aspect of your API program, to have the right operational visibility and alerting in place, and so forth. So Apogee is the leader in this space. We've been doing this 10 plus years. We created this market, API management. In terms of API management, we've been, you can see here on the latest Gartner Magic Quadrant, Apogee is the leader in this space, fourth year in a row now. I highly encourage you to get a copy of this report if you don't have it, and read why Gartner positioned us the way they have. But one of the number one reasons for this is simply ease of use. And you'll see that reflected in their report. Speed to market with Apogee is phenomenal. And, we highly encourage you to get hands-on with the product, and we've got a lot of options for that. So Apogee offers extreme reliability and scale. A majority of the top retailers in the U.S. rely on Apogee every year, especially over Black Friday. And as a result, we handle an enormous volume of traffic every year at peak season between Black Friday and Cyber Monday. This past holiday season, we saw 40% growth in API calls year over year. We saw a peak transaction volume of close to 130,000 API calls per second on Black Friday. So Apogee has consistently managed this traffic year after year for a majority of the U.S. retailers And we've consistently maintained 5 nines availability year after year on behalf of the retailers who trust their digital business to our platform. And we've reliably scaled and continue to do so. So I appreciate everyone's time. Hope this has been informative. I'm going to turn it back over to Chris. I think we may have some questions from the audience. And so Chris?
Great. Thank you so much, Chris. Yeah, so there is a section down on the bottom of your screen or within here for Q&As. If you have any questions, feel free to submit those and let us get to those here. But let's see, let's start with a couple of questions we've got. Let's see, what is evangelization in the context of your API program or digital transformation? Is it a state of maturity or something needed always? That's a good question. So I would say both. I would say both. When we look at evangelization or evangelizing your API program, it is definitely something that you should be doing on a regular basis. Get people involved, market it like you would other products within your organization or other programs within your organization. And the more people that you get involved with the API program, especially when you're using APIs to drive the transformational things we've been talking about, the more people you can get behind that, then the better it is for the entire organization, right? But we also see that organizations that have become more mature over time definitely fit into this mode of continuous evangelism of the APIs, of the API products, of the technologies like that Chris outlined. Get people behind that, and that's really where you're going to find the most value. Okay, let's see another one. What type of metrics should we track to determine if our APIs are working, or what types of API metrics work for retail? Chris, you want to take that one?
Yes, Chris, I appreciate that. Yeah, that's a fantastic question as well. The number one thing that I would say retailers need from that perspective is they need visibility into which APIs are being consumed across which channels and at what volume. So this is important from both a business perspective and an operational perspective. It allows them to identify, where to invest, where their dependencies are across channels, which can be important for a variety of reasons, communication and so forth. So, for example, if they've got various versions of their API at this point, and now they've got to be able to determine which versions or which capabilities can be safely deprecated and when, and ensure that the right communications are going out to the right parties. Also, they're going to need to know which partnerships are the most valuable, and in some cases, which might need to be throttled or dissolved. If they've got a partner who appears to be heavily, I don't want to say abusing, but excessively consuming the API when there's little business value there. So there needs to be, from both a business perspective and an operational perspective, there needs to be visibility to these things.
Yeah, I think when we look at metrics also, we can track very simple things such as the number of APIs you've produced, right? And you can very easily track that. But when it starts to get more complex is things like, can you track how much revenue your business is generating specifically from the APIs? So an example of that would be, let's say you create a new shopping experience that's using APIs specifically for that shopping experience. And you now can start tracking how much revenue you are generating into the business through that shopping experience. That is indirectly also related to the API. So things like that, I think we should always be thinking about. Great. Let's see some more. Do you see more retail organizations going towards a full SaaS solution or a hybrid solution? Chris?
Yeah, I'll take that. Thanks, Chris. Good question. I would say close to 100% of our retailers today, if not 100%, are using our SaaS solution. And the biggest part of that is due simply to the incredible speed to market advantages. So as I mentioned, I started as a customer of Apogee a few years back, and we actually signed a contract in late April and went live with our entire mobile platform running behind Apogee by July, and we had a flawless peak season. So for a retailer of that size, one of the U.S. top 10 retailers, achieving that in that speed of time, I think that speaks to a big part of that's Apogee. As I mentioned earlier, and some of the comments that even Gartner's made in the most recent analysis, but a big part of that is the speed to market advantages that you have with the SaaS platform. Now, our hybrid platform is picking up as well, We're seeing interest in that from the retail community. And so, that's going to be more in cases where a customer has, extremely low latency requirements where they're running APIs, for example, inside their data center, and they've got, both the consumer and the back-end service running in the same location and are looking to minimize latency. So there are various use cases. That's one of them. And would love to, if anybody's interested in a hybrid product and what retailers have begun using that, or I wouldn't say what, but how they've begun using that, would love to definitely reach out to Chris or I, and we can share some more info on that.
Excellent. Let's see. Again, if you've got questions, feel free to add them into our queue. We've got a little time for a little bit more conversation here. We've got another one. Our company is very slow to transform. What advice can you give us to prove APIs can help? Yeah, we talked a little bit about that just a moment ago, like the beginning of the presentation where we had that research and we said, research alone is not going to actually solve that problem. I think a couple of things. First off, this presentation will help you prove that APIs can help. I know a few of you are asking for copies of the presentation. We will actually make a video available. That video is going to be posted on YouTube, so you can go off and share the link with your coworkers and team to hear a little bit more about this deck. And speaking of YouTube, we actually have a ton of content on YouTube that talks about APIs and digital transformation. This entire webcast series is available on YouTube, and we've done other conversations around innovation specifically and topics around digital transformation. So feel free to go use those resources also. And then from a philosophical perspective, one of the things that I tell companies a lot when they're trying to go through this transformation experience is learn how to fail fast. And I think a lot of companies and teams are very fearful of failing. And so as a result, they're trying to transform while maintaining, their existing culture and technologies and things like that. APIs as a technology help you become a lot more fluid, but you still have to move the organization and the culture towards that transformation also. And so, if you can learn to fail fast and try things and see what is successful and what's not successful and move on, that's going to substantially help you in your process. So something to think about there. So we got a general question, and I'm going to ask the question, and then I'm not going to give you an answer. Do you know what Walmart and Target are doing, and how are they using APIs? Yes, I do. Maybe Chris, do you have some insights of Walmart and Target?
Well, we don't usually talk about the specifics of the individual retailers, but if you have anything you could share that would help answer, that'd be great.
Yeah, look, from my view, I can summarize it in a very simple context. Walmart, Target, and anybody else that you shop with are facilitating new shopping experiences, and they are basically setting the benchmark for what other retailers are trying to do, right? And we've touched on some of this. I mean, most of you who are listening have probably shopped at either Walmart or Target or fill in the blank. You as a consumer will go to your favorite store and you have certain expectations, whether that is paying by Samsung Pay, Google Pay, Apple Pay, whether that is looking up inventory, ordering that inventory online, and then going picking it up at the store, right? Those experiences are what people are looking for. And yes, all of those groups, all of those companies are investing in API programs to do that, because that's what we want as consumers. That's what we are looking for. So if you start from that perspective, saying, I am a consumer, I walk into a store, this is the experience I'm looking for, then you shall have a good indication of the technologies and the experiences you want to build, which all are being powered by APIs. Sound good? Let's see. we may have time for one more question here. So this is a little bit of a technical question, but we'll read it. When using Apigee for API management, is the authorization, OAuth 2, SAML, etc., built into the API for access, or do we need to develop an API gateway to access APIs hosted on Apigee? Hope that makes sense. I think that makes sense, Chris.
Yeah, so I'll talk a little bit about OAuth 2 and Apigee, and this would be a great segue into telling you guys, the best way to get a great feel for how things like OAuth 2 and some of our other capabilities work in Apigee is to attend one of our API jams. I highly encourage that. It's about a 2-hour investment of your time. Just Google virtual API jam. I think it's the first link that'll come back. It should be for Apigee, and you'll see when the next one is. It's totally free. It's about a 2-hour commitment of your time. Just register for it, and we'll take you through, a whole series of labs where you get hands-on with things like this in Apigee, and it will really crystallize not only how does all this work, but just how easy it is and how powerful it is and how quickly you can do some really cool things because you start with an environment that's completely empty. And I just had one of my buddies from one of my customers post a question, which was more of a comment that says, the jams are great, by the way. So I don't know if he'd be okay with me mentioning the company, but it's one of you guys on the webinar. So appreciate that feedback. So yeah, a lot of our customers love these workshops. But to answer your question, we have about 50 out-of-the-box policies with Apigee. And they do all sorts of things in terms of mediation and security and transformations and so forth. But one of them is to implement OAuth 2. We have one for JWT, and so actually we have 2 or 3 for JWT and 2 or 3 for OAuth 2. But basically the way it works is we provide a framework. And so, depending on the grant type that you're using with OAuth, for example, if you were doing a client credentials grant type, it could be handled pretty much entirely within Apigee using our policies because we allow you to register all of the client applications within the platform. And so, we can handle the generation and validation of the token and so forth. But Apigee is extremely flexible, extremely extensible. So if you are working with a third-party IDP like, some of the big ones out there are Okta and Ping Federate, and so we have tons of customers using them. And in that case, it becomes more of a hybrid where Apigee is providing the framework and calling out when necessary to the third-party IDP, for example, to validate credentials. And then potentially minting a token. There's a ton of options there. If you check out our community, if you check out our docs at docs.apigee.com, you'll see a variety of options of how to implement OAuth 2. We cover that in some of our labs that we have available. If you go out to another option is you can just go out to github.com/Apigee. So you'll get to our GitHub page, then click on API Jam. There's a ton of labs out there. There's some that cover OAuth 2. And it'll just walk you through exactly how to do certain configurations in certain grant types. So, but all the grant types are supported. So, good question. Thank you.
Okay, great. So, I see a couple more questions. Unfortunately, we are running a little bit out of time here. So, my name is Chris Hood. Joining me was Christopher Rowe. Our email addresses are on the bottom of our pictures here. Feel free to reach out to us if you would like to learn a little bit more about Apigee, whether it's the security or the API jams, or you want to talk from a business perspective, how to sell APIs within your organization. We're both more than happy to talk with you and answer any of your questions. And we thank you, appreciate your time. It was a great session, Chris. Thank you for participating, and have a great day.
Thanks, Chris. Thanks, everyone.